All right, so on our online availability, a couple of reasons we might want to use that. Allows us to communicate inventory and rates to our prospects and applicants in real time, 24 hours a day, right? Automatically throttles our lease term availability to remain in compliance with our lease expiration limits when we set up those lease terms at the unit type level. How many of you all have lease expiration limits set up at your properties now? About half? Excellent. So once those lease expiration limits are set up and you're setting up those lease terms at the unit type level, it's automatically going to remove those lease terms from your online availability that are going to put you out of compliance. So if we don't have a 12-month available, it doesn't show on our online availability. Allows us to display specials on any applicable units when we're creating those specials inside of Resman. Anybody using specials, creating specials inside of Resman? 2, 3, 4, couple of us? Amazing. Just keep in mind that the online availability is included with Resman Leasing Pro, and Pro Flex. So you don't get it in the base package, but if you're using Resman Leasing Pro, or Pro Flex, you can turn that online availability on. So let's talk about those online availability settings. They are property specific. And you're going to find those in admin properties. You're going to select your property, and then applicant portal settings on that left-hand side is what we're looking for. So I know it doesn't really correspond when you think online availability. It's under the applicant portal settings section. Keep in mind that your admin and settings permissions are required, so you have to have permission to access those areas. Our applicant portal settings are going to drive our online availability options, and there's a lot of other stuff in that applicant portal settings section that don't pertain to online availability. Drives our online guest card, our online application process. What we're really focusing on is that online availability items today. Keep in mind if you're using Resman websites or another third party, the Resman website settings are going to be available in your inventory and settings section. If you're using Resman websites, anybody? A couple of you? Excellent. If you're using another third-party provider, the settings that we activate in Resman Core today may or may not feed over depending on what that third-party provider pulls. Does that make sense? Yes? Excellent. All right, so in our applicant portal settings, very first section that we're going to look at is the access and permissions, and it is that very top section that you'll see. So in order to enable that online availability, we're just going to check that second checkbox. So once that's enabled, the URL will automatically populate in that property settings section. And then you can access that online availability real time directly from that green submenu bar in Resman. So you don't actually have to go to your web page and then pull it up. There's a little bar at the top, green submenu bar, that will allow you to access that online availability pretty quickly and easily. All right, now we're going to cover pretty much this whole page. We're going to do it in 3 sections. So very first thing in our online availability section of our applicant portal settings, y'all, that was a mouthful. First thing we're going to look at is our maximum move-in date after our availability. So we can enter a number here, and what that allows you to do is select the farthest date that an applicant can select for move-in during the application process. Y'all, I have mine set at 30 days. How many people these days are holding an apartment for 30 days? Anybody? Couple? What is our average generally? 2 days after it's ready? 2 weeks. So 14 days, maybe 10 days. I think that's a lot more common these days. Y'all, when I got back into the business way back, it was the late 90s, we would hold a unit for 30 days. I know, gone are the days of 30 days of vacancy loss. That was 25 years ago. All right, so number of days that we will hold that unit from the date that it's available. So I think commonly we're looking at 14 days or 10 days for the most part. If the unit is available today, we'll allow that applicant to select a unit 10 days from today or 14 days, whatever that available date is. The next one down is the minimum days prior to move-in. Day selection, you can put 0, and that's just going to allow them, it's the soonest date that an applicant can select from the date available. Anybody allowing people to move in same day for these settings? Commonly, no. 2 days, 3 days? What's the soonest somebody could move in? 3 days, commonly 3 days. I think I see that a lot. Just keep in mind that if we've got a unit that is, the available date is today and it's a ready unit, would you allow somebody to select today's date? Keep in mind it doesn't look at what time they're applying, so if it's after office hours, right, and they select same day, then we know that that's not going to happen, right? There's nobody there to process any of that. So I think commonly 2 or 3 days, but you can set it for 0, and that would allow them to choose that same day move-in. I think more commonly we're just looking at 2 or 3 days, and then if they provide you all of the information, you all will manually pull that date forward. Is that correct? Yes. Excellent. Third option here is going to be our maximum unit type availability. So this is going to allow us to set the maximum number of units that we will show per unit type on your online availability. So 2 schools of thought here. I'm going to take a poll. How many of you want a low number of units so you can create that sense of urgency? 5 or 6 or 10? How many of you would like to show all units so that you don't miss any leases, even if they're 30, 60, 90 days out? Couple? I see a lot of you didn't raise your hand. Are you on the fence? Yeah? So this will allow you to set that number of units that you can show per unit type, so floor plan. If you want all units to show, do not enter 0. 0 means 0. So if you want all units to show, just leave that blank. Otherwise, enter an actual number of units. All right, moving down that page, display unit types when no units are available. We're looking at 3 check boxes in a row here. So do we want to display the floor plan if we don't have any units available in that floor plan? Common thoughts on this? What do y'all think? What are y'all doing right now? Are we displaying units if there are none available? I see 1 yes, I see 1 no. All right, so if you want to display the floor plan when there are no units available, we're going to get to a section here in just a little bit where you can put up a message that says whatever you would like it to say, but something along the lines of, we're sorry, there's no units available in this unit type. Yes? Resman website settings would be in that dashboard. I do not think that anything that is in Resman Core carries over to Resman websites in most cases. Don't quote me on that though. Yeah, I don't think that it carries over. Grant, do you have any idea with that? No? Okay.
Sorry, you freaked me out with this.
No, that's okay. Yeah, if you guys are using Resman websites, then all of that is housed in your inventory section in your Resman websites. Yeah. Another question up here?
Does the maximum and minimum days flow into like holding units set for availability?
So, does it feed into holding units?
Yeah, like the same standard.
I am not 100% sure, but I would think so, yes, if because they're entering a move-in date, right? I would have to double check for you. Good question. It does pull over to our quotes, so it's not going to allow your team to select a move-in date when we're quoting somebody that's outside of what you set here. So it's kind of really affects your website, online availability, and the quotes as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Does the minimum and maximum days affect holding units as well? And I would think that even though technically that's not a real unit, if they enter a move-in date, it's still going to fall into that parameters. So. All right, so we talked about displaying unit types when no units are available. If we have that box checked, that's going to allow your prospects and applicants to see the floor plan. We'll address that no unit type available message here in just a little bit. The next two check boxes we're looking at are the hide unavailable units prior to the move-in date and hide unavailable units after the move-in date. Y'all, that sounds like an oxymoron to me. I cannot wrap my brain around it just by reading that. So what the hide unavailable units prior to the move-in date checkbox is, so when somebody goes onto your website, they're going to enter their desired move-in date, right, on that pop-up box. Units that don't fall into that date range that you have specified, based on that move-in date, won't be shown. For example, I go onto your website and I enter a move-in date of September 1st. Any units that are available now that don't fall into that date range based on my maximum unit type, my maximum days available, aren't going to be shown. So they just basically disappear. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of hard to talk through it. I kind of have to see it in action. And then hide the unavailable units after the move-in date. Units that don't fall into that date range based on the move-in date, desired move-in date entered, won't be shown. For example, if a move-in date of today is entered, units outside of that specified range in settings won't be shown. If we want all units to be shown, maybe I don't have something that is available today, but I've got something that is available at the end of June or middle of July. If those boxes are unchecked, we're going to be able to see those future units. We'll have that move-in date on that button for that unit. Does that make sense to everybody? Excellent. All right, let's talk default holding units. How many of you are using a default holding unit? Do we all know what holding units are? Do we need to walk through that first? Okay. Okay. Okay, so a little bit different terminology. She was saying that she has a unit that isn't available for lease for one reason or another, and she's got it on hold, so it's not available to be leased. So Resman, the term holding unit, is really kind of a virtual waiting room, if you will, and you can create them for each unit type if you would like to. Anybody ever lease apartments to prospects or applicants without an actual unit number? I know we had at least one or two because you guys have had questions about it before. So yes, so you would want somebody, maybe we don't have anything available in an A1 today, but we would like somebody to apply and put them maybe on a waiting list for a unit that's going to become available in the future. Anybody dealing with waiting lists at the unit type level? No? One or two? So what a holding unit does is it allows us to collect that application, have the applicant complete the application, collect the monies. We don't have them assigned to an actual physical unit with a unit number. So again, it's kind of like that virtual waiting room, if you will. Phantom unit is what I like to call it. So we can have them apply, and then once we have an actual unit available, transfer them to that numbered unit where they would actually move in, right? So I've got a couple down here that are nodding their heads in agreement. So you can create those holding units. Commonly I see it one per each unit type. So A1, B1, C1, and then that allows those people, when they apply to that holding unit, select that floor plan, complete the application, collect the monies, get everything processed and approved, and then we're just waiting for a unit to become available. Yeah, question?
So we use that, and we use it, we don't allow anyone ever to apply for the unit until they're approved.
Okay.
But we're finding that we're having issues with apartments.com, where the wait list do not show up. So it says when you go to apartments.com, there's nothing available. So we're trying to figure out how to solve that, because it's a long-term issue.
So that the issue that she said she's having is they never allow people to apply for numbered units. Everybody goes into a holding unit at first, and then you're manually transferring them and assigning them to a unit once they're approved. That may have to do with the information that apartments.com is pulling through that API integration, because they may not look at holding units specifically for that reason. So that might be part of it.
Checked for available for online marketing though?
But for the, oh, you do?
Yeah, so in apartments.com, go in and do not link to resume. You just go in and say each of your apartment types, because you're putting the whole units anyway. I don't know who asked the questions, I'm still here. So like you would just put A1, B1, C1, you say they're always available, and you just, the only thing about that is you're gonna have to manually go in for updating the pricing and manually update, so it won't convert. But that solves your problem with it showing you have nothing available, because you're just not even letting apartments.com and residents speak to each other. Okay.
Did everybody get that excellent workaround?
Are they just for the holding unit or for the whole community?
I do it for my whole community. I don't want them to see that I have 20 vacant units. I don't want them to know the unit numbers. It's really a safety issue for us. We don't want people to see that. So I just have floor plans only.
Okay.
And every floor plan is available all the time on apartments.com.
Okay, what if you do the AI revenue management in?
I don't use that.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Because that would be like different, right? Because the same floor plan, we have different price ranges. If I put on this unit, maybe it would be different than the other unit with the AI revenue. I don't know.
Apartments.com, if you unlink, did everybody kind of hear what her workaround was? Would you mind running through it for us again, if you mind? I appreciate it.
Sure, I don't remember the technical terms about any of it, but when I set up apartments.com, I did not integrate it with residents. So I manually go in and I say I have this floor plan and this one and this one. I don't give them unit numbers. They just say the floor plan name. And I've got the pricing on there and all the stuff, the photos and everything. It shows that that floor plan is available all the time. The only thing I have to do on a weekly basis, I go in and do unit availability, so it shows that it's currently up to date. There's a little checkbox and you can refresh, and I'll adjust the pricing whenever we adjust the pricing. But it will show availability all the time. You won't have any issue with showing nothing. And then that way you also don't see a list of apartment numbers that indicate to people that someone's moving. It kind of gives them information I personally don't like for people to be able to see for safety reasons. I don't want them to see a certain apartment's going to be available or vacant. So,
thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Anything else we need to talk about in regards to holding units? You can use those. Another question?
Yeah, so this maximum move-in after availability, 30 days, right? What it does exactly?
Oh, so the maximum number of days after availability?
Yeah.
That's just going to prevent, mine is set to 30, that's just going to prevent somebody from selecting a move-in date that is well into the future for an apartment that's maybe available now.
Oh.
All right. Next drop
We have one
down.
question back here.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Grant.
Never mind.
All right, next drop down is sort unit types by, and you can sort them by name, low to high, square footage, low to high, bedrooms, low to high. I think there's another one as well. Keep in mind that when we are sorting by name, it's actually not using the unit type name. It is using the name that is set up in the marketing information at the unit type. So if you don't want it to say A1, B1, C1, if you have names for it like spruce or birch, or you call them by a different name, you can set that up by name versus the A1, B1, C1, which is how mine are set. All right, our next three check boxes. First one is to hide the unit type rent. So that's going to be the floor plan rent. We are looking at an A1 and there is a range. It will show that range. So that's at the unit type level. The second checkbox is to hide the unit rent. So when they click into a specific unit number, it will show that rent. You can hide that rent. So either unit type or unit rent, either one. The show property website link just puts an additional button kind of up at the top that takes them back to your homepage, whatever that property homepage is. It does tie to that URL that's been entered at the property settings. So when you go into admin properties and select the property, it's that very first section. All right, our next three radio buttons deal with deposits. So do we want to display the deposit for the unit type or the unit? Do we want to hide the deposit? Our third option is a deposit amount text override. And what that allows you to do is type in some text that would override the actual dollar amount of the deposit. Maybe something like deposit starting at $150, or deposit is dependent upon credit, things of that nature. All right, next section we're going to talk about in the applicant portal settings is our online availability welcome message. This just allows you to enter a message that you would like your prospects or your applicants to see once they navigate to your online availability. Just comes up in the form of a pop-up box. So you can enter that information, and then it allows them to enter that desired move-in date. Hot tip on that. If you are using merge fields, you can create this online availability message once and use those merge fields for like property name, property phone number, etc. And then you can copy it to all of your properties or specific properties as needed. All right, last section of our applicant portal settings. Our unit type unavailable message, and then our unit unavailable message. So earlier we addressed that little checkbox, do we want to hide unavailable units, or do we want to show unavailable units at the unit type level, right? So if we are showing the unit type, if there are no units available, this is the message that they will see. So maybe it's something like, we're sorry, we don't have any of that unit type available. Contact the property to discuss another unit type, something of that nature. Again, you can use those merge fields and copy to multiple properties. All right, the unit unavailable message, this will show up. Really, this is for the second place finisher when we're talking about people are multiple people are completing online applications for the same unit. So maybe I'm applying for a unit online, and Grant is applying for the same unit online, and we don't know each other. And one of us is going to finish our online application first, right? We're going to pay our fees, and we're going to be assigned to that unit. Whenever that second place person finishes their application, that unit is no longer available, right? Because it's been already assigned to someone else. So whoever that second place finisher is going to see this message that says that unit is no longer available. Whatever else you would like to communicate to them as far as contact the office, select another apartment number, however you'd like to verbalize that. Any questions on unit type unavailable message versus the unit unavailable message? Yep. All right, let's talk about adding and removing individual units from the online availability. Keep in mind that the ability to mark a unit as available for online marketing is permission-based, and it's really easy to do. You're going to navigate into the unit number, so you can either type in the unit number in the search bar and hit that enter key, or you can go into property units and select it from that list. You'll see that very first section, the unit information. You're going to hit that edit button, and then you will see a little check mark that allows you to make that unit as available for online marketing. You can really easily see those units when they are either available for online marketing or made not available for online marketing. When you're in that unit information page, there is a little section that says available for online marketing, and it's going to say yes or no. So you don't have to navigate into that edit button. That's just where you would change it, but you'll be able to see it from that main screen. You also will be able to use the unit information report to run that for the whole property, and then you can easily check in a column, is it available for online marketing, yes or no. So if you have multiples that you need to check for, that's the quickest way to do it, in my opinion. I think I turned that off. Okay. If we need to add or remove multiple units from the online availability, of course we can do that in bulk. And you will go to property and units.
We discovered the bulk and it was like magic.
It was magic, right? You're like, none of them are available for online marketing, and now I have 250 that I need to go and check. So, boy, you wish you had this class 6 months ago, right? Excellent. So, property units, and then on the green submenu option, bulk update units, you're going to select the units that need to be changed. Y'all, this is a pretty short list. I know some of them might be 200 or 300 long. So select those units that need to be changed. You're going to select the appropriate option from that second drop down. Either no change, yes, we want to make them available for online marketing, or no. Any questions on that? All right. Troubleshooting our online availability. Why can't I see units that I think I should be able to see? First couple of things we need to look at. Is the unit marked as available for online marketing, yes or no? Do we have that maximum number of units set per unit type? And maybe we think that we should see 6 units, but we're only seeing 2. Maybe we've got that 2-unit limit. Are all your current residents in that unit on a notice to vacate status? How many of you all have fallen victim to that before, maybe? 1 or 2? Where somebody goes and puts a unit on notice, but there's multiple residents and they don't put everyone on notice. That would be one of the things that I would check first, is because we can have multiple residents in a unit under different statuses. So just make sure if everybody's moving, they're all on notice to vacate. Do we already have an applicant assigned to that unit? Maybe somebody applied online and kind of snuck in on us. So just make sure that there's not already an applicant that has been assigned. And then one our support team commonly sees are overlapping lease dates in the lease history module. So that can cause some confusion if we've got somebody that's on notice, but they've also been renewed, and maybe there's a pending renewal. So check that lease history at the unit level, not the resident level. The unit level, to make sure that there are no overlapping lease dates. All right, we're going to talk quotes. Only 2 or 3 of you are currently using quotes, right? I asked earlier. I know typically we think of quotes in a revenue management scenario, but they can be useful outside of this framework. I personally love them in Resman. It just allows us to quickly distribute leasing information to prospects, either a printed version, right, or via email. Anybody using traditional brochures still, or are you handwriting the information on brochures? Do we have anybody using price sheets where you're handing like the same price sheet to everybody that comes in? A couple of us, okay. I personally love the quotes in Resman because we can either print them out or email or do both. We can create a sense of urgency by setting an expiration date. Even though maybe our pricing doesn't change daily, our prospects don't need to know that, right? We can send that online application link that ties to an existing quote as well. Or you can choose that quote if you're manually converting people to an applicant inside of Resman. That quote-specific information, unit number, move-in date, rent amount, deposit amounts will be used, saving time and preventing errors. And then all of those quotes are kept forever in the quote section of the account page for you to refer back to and for fair housing purposes. So some quote settings that are property specific. Again, we're going to find those in admin properties. We're going to select that property. Some information is going to pull from other areas, amenities, if we have amenities tied to a unit, specials that might be tied to a unit, the applicant type that we're using, like our application fees or deposits, unit type, default charges, maybe we've got an admin fee that's set up to be charged at move-in, recurring charges, either rent charges or other charges, anybody charging maybe for monthly trash or pest control, things of that nature. We can also add other conditional items, such as pet rent, right? We need to add pet rent to a quote, but only if the resident or applicant has a pet, right? So I think of those as kind of conditional or optional items. So in our quote settings, very first thing we're going to do is set a number of days the quote should be valid for. Think of that as your expiration date. So 7 days, quote is valid for 7 days. If you want quotes to be able to be created at the unit type level, in addition to the actual unit level, like a numbered unit, you can check that box and allow them to be created at the unit type level. Allows you to enter some text you would like to appear on all quotes. Might be something along the lines of, we require you to provide proof of renter's insurance. Maybe something along the lines of, water is billed separately and sub-metered and is due in addition to your rent, things of that nature. And then the second section is for our disclosure message. Square footages are approximate, pricing and availability is subject to change. So maybe some of that legal mumbo jumbo that we need to include. Yes?
If you allow quotes to be created at the unit type level, is it just going to give a range of the price for all the units?
Yes. Yes. Question was, if you're creating at the unit type level, is it a price range? All right, so default quote charges. That's going to allow us to add some of those default quote charges, things that we need to be able to include on quotes. So very first thing we're going to select is the transaction category. Keep in mind that both your charge and your credit transaction categories are listed here. You'll select whether it is a one-time credit or charge or if it is recurring. If you select recurring, you get a little checkbox where you can check, does it need to happen for the length of the lease? If you keep that box unchecked, the default on the quote is going to be length of lease, but you also, when you're creating it, get an option for a drop down, so you can choose the number of months that needs to happen. You'll add a description, you'll add your dollar amount, and if the charge is to be required, which means added to all quotes.
If you do rent on that one?
That would be additional charges. So the rent is going to pull in automatically based on the unit type or the unit number. All right, we ready to create a quote? Anybody that's logged in? So,
It said I've exceeded the number of login attempts.
somebody may have changed the password. Anybody else unable to log in?
Never mind, I
I
will.
don't have the URL.
Am I on?
URL is trainingteam2.myresman.com. If you were in another session before this, you may have been given another URL.
And then the username?
Resmania, password is Resmania. All right, so first thing we need to do is create a prospect. Yeah, you have a question in the back? Yeah, go ahead. No, so the default quote charges only apply to some of the quote items, but if there is a reoccurring charge set up at the property level, it's going to pull those in. Can you give me an example of the okay. For default quote charges, it just lives on the quote itself. But if you've got reoccurring charges set up at the property level under reoccurring charges, that's going to pull into the quotes. Good question. All right, so first thing we need to do for y'all that are going to generate a quote, yes.
Sure, the password is Resmania?
Resmania. Capital R, capital M.
That's
All right. Yes, question.